Hello yogis, welcome to our studio. We've missed you and we'd love to share with you a little bit of the words on the wall. You've been coming to the studio for some time now, and so you've noticed these words on the wall, noticing the Devanagari Sanskrit script, so beautifully scripted here by Sukriba, as well as the English alphabet variation of these words. What do these words mean? The first 5 words, starting with ahimsa and going right the way along to aparigraha, are collectively known as the yama. These words give us some guidelines to how we are with others, not just other humans, but with all life forms. They were codified or written by Patanjali. Some of us have read that Patanjali lived 2,500 years ago. Others say perhaps longer. In any case, Patanjali codified or wrote down the teachings that had been passed along orally up to his point. He was also a grammarian, and he wrote the practices of Ayurvedic medicine, the practices often followed not only in India, but here in Canada for well-being. They're very closely linked to the practices of yoga as well. So Patanjali's Yoga Sutras are the source of these words on the wall, specifically the 2nd chapter, or pada, chapter 2, pada number 2, starting with the 30th of the sutras. Sutra just means a thread, and Patanjali wrote 196 very pithy, very cryptic threads or sayings that help to guide us. The first of which, ahimsa. Now, Patanjali was a grammarian, and so you notice the prefix letter A. That letter A refers to restraint. So, restraining himsa, or harm, literally means causing no harm, first to oneself and then to others. If we think of the great teacher Mahatma Gandhi, who led the thrust in India towards independence successfully, so that in 1949 India became an independent country, his practice, his lifelong practice, was the practice of nonviolence. And today, as we look at American history and the Civil Rights Movement and Martin Luther King, he was a student of Mahatma Gandhi. As well, the great Vietnamese monk Thich Nhat Hanh also practices nonviolent response to the world around. Ahimsa, or nonviolence. How do you practice nonviolence? Do you pause when you're given a moment to think about a word or a gesture that might cause harm to others, and just take a breath and choose not to say or do or even allow unwholesome thoughts of violence to guide your behavior? These practices of the yamas and niyamas are a way of thinking about the word karma. Karma means that the things we do today sets up our tomorrows. Ahimsa, or nonviolence, is the umbrella for the other yamas, the second of which is satya, or truth-telling. Of course, in order to tell the truth, we have to know our truth. And in order to know our truth, we have to have those moments of quiet reflection which give rise to the insights of our truth. And because of nonviolence, our truth cannot be harmful. So we have to choose our words carefully in order to convey both the truth and truth said with kindness, with compassion. The third of the yamas, asteya, and you notice that prefix letter A again, saying restrain yourself from what? From taking that which is not freely given. What could that mean? Today, with COVID-19 in our country, we could think about not taking the space between us, which keeps us both safe. Our physical distancing space must not be eroded or taken. Similarly, we wear facial coverings when we go to the grocery store, or when we travel, or when we're going to be in close contact with others. These ways of preserving ourselves from causing harm are the new reality now in Canada with COVID-19. Ahimsa, cause no harm. Satya, speak the truth with compassion. Asteya, take only what's freely given. Another person's time, the space between you, and objects. I tell the story of having gone to the YMCA years ago now, after a yoga class, going into the shower room and seeing this wonderful little bottle of shampoo and thinking, oh, I'd love to try that. Pause, breathe, realize it's not been given. It's sitting there. It belongs to someone else. Just that moment of pause can be the moment of digging deep into these precepts and seeing where we stand with our practice. Ahimsa, Satya, Asteya, Brahmacharya. What Patanjali had in mind for Brahmacharya was abstinence from sexual activity. Because in those days, the monks and the nuns living monastic lives took vows of celibacy. In current times, we've examined the harm that celibacy can cause. We know that the sexual appetite is an appetite that is wholesome when it is guided by the precepts of non-harming, of truth-telling. Currently, the practice of Brahmacharya invites us to consider restraining our appetites in general, for food, for entertainment, for for pleasing ourselves rather than perhaps in service to others. How do you restrain your appetites? What do you notice sometimes overwhelming you as a need that comes up? Here we get to discern what is a need, what is a want. And during these times of COVID-19, we discover that our needs are actually very simple. We want to connect with each other. We want to be with our friends and family. We need food, warmth, and shelter. And all of those are provided quite easily, so that our sense of moderation has been brought to us by the virus itself. When we emerge, I think we'll have a better sense of our needs versus our wants. Brahmacharya brings us now to a parigraha. And what Dori's going to do is move in to show you the titles of some of the books which have guided our thinking today. Each of the books that Dori has scanned for you has a specific interpretation or translation of the sutras. We're not Sanskrit scholars, so we rely on the voices and skills of others to parse the sutras for us and to examine them in the light of their own biases and understandings. And that's why we've given you a selection of these books to consider. Mr. Iyengar also provided 2 books on the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, and in his characteristic way,
they are thorough, informed, scholarly, and one might think of them as the master's degrees on the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. The fifth of the yamas, or the precepts guiding our relationship to the outer world, is the word aparigraha. And again, you see the prefix letter A. This might be translated as greedlessness, or without greed. Patanjali knew that humans have the capacity for unwholesome behaviors. Anger, greed, among them. And so his guidelines point us away from unwholesome thoughts and behaviors toward wholesome thoughts. If we think of aparigraha as generosity, the opposite of greed, we are guided then to give what we can to others in need. So greed no longer controls our acquisition of objects or other people's time or some other way of manipulating people so that we feel that our wants can be met. Instead, we turn greed on its head, like a headstand, and we say, oh, let me see where generosity can guide me so that the needs of others might be met. And I am in the position right here, right now, in Nanaimo, BC, Canada, to say that most of us have our needs met. But perhaps there are others for whom we can tell the truths and offer toward fulfilling their needs. Because the practice of truth, or satya, is not just our truth, but it's speaking the truth of others whose voices might not be heard. Are there people in your neighborhood, people that you see whose basic needs are not being met, and to whom you could offer generosity in order that those needs be met? You see, when all our needs are met, when we are observing the precepts, then the practices which lead us to equanimity, to well-being, are fostered. The next group of words, and there are 5 of them, are collectively called the niyams, and they are the practices that we observe in relation to the self. The yamas, our relationship with others, the external world. The niyams, ourselves, the very first of which is the practice of saucha, or cleanliness. Well, nowadays, cleanliness has become a guideline for our social behaviors as well. Not only do we practice cleanliness by washing our hands and maintaining physical distance, but we also wear a mask to cover the face so that we are not going to cause harm to others. Patanjali had in mind not just physical cleanliness, but a purification practice. The yoga asanas are exactly that. They are a purification practice which helps us release tension and strain in the body and replace it with a sense of calm and ease, so that the mind body, the spirit body, can hear those deep questions. Who am I? And why am I here? And how am I performing my daily practices in relation to self and others? Saucha, purification, cleanliness of thoughts, of speech, and of actions. Santosha, such a lovely word. Santosha refers to the practice of contentment, knowing that you've done your very best, and feeling the calm sense of ease and satisfaction that you've done your best.
These little videos we're making, we observe the mantra connection, not perfection. Perfection is the enemy of the good, and we want to offer our best, knowing that we're just learning. We're making it up on the fly, but we're offering it sincerely with the sense of santosha or contentment. We've done our best for today. Tomorrow might be better. The next 3 words and phrases: tapas, svadhyaya, ishvara pranidhana. The 3 together are collectively called Kriya Yoga, meaning the yoga of action. They require that we engage. Tapas literally means heat, and it refers to the discipline of practice. Many have said in emails to us, "Oh, my practice is not as disciplined as I'd like it to be." I understand that. It can take time to embed a practice. But if we commit and we say, just for today, I will practice. If we say that each morning, then our practice begins to develop. Our tapas begins to develop, and it strengthens us from the inside as we develop that practice. Svadhyaya. Svadhyaya is what we're doing right now. We're exploring ourselves in relation to the guidance of Patanjali. Our self-study can be the study that inspires us as we read the teachings of the great teachers of our day. Currently, I've been enjoying many meditations led by some of the most wonderful teachers. And in those meditations, one is looking at oneself in relation to the questions, the problems, and the successes that the teachers point to. I think of the great Vietnamese monk Thich Nhat Hanh and his gentle, inspiring teachings. They seem so simple, but they're not easy. I think of the great teachings of B.K.S. Iyengar, who invited us to challenge ourselves in the face of these precepts and observances. They look simple enough, just words on a wall, but they're not easy. We could choose one of the yama or niyama and practice that as thoroughly as we understand it. And then we could shift that practice to the next one and practice that as thoroughly as we understand it. To take on all 10 might seem like a supreme effort. So we might choose just a little step to begin. The very last phrase, Ishvara Pranidhana, is the sense of doing our very best and then releasing that effort in the hopes that it serves the greater good. That whatever our effort is, we cannot claim any rewards for our efforts, but we can know that as we release these efforts for the greater good, that we have done our best in the spirit of sharing, in the spirit of connecting, of being together, and then hoping as we just breathe and lift those efforts away, that they land for the greater good. I'm leaving this with you today and thanking my good friend Dory Miller for being our camera person and for helping to create this moment together with you today. We'll continue. We're going to do an orientation video that helps us to understand how our practices are going to change as we come back into the studio in short weeks away. And we'll also follow up with these teachings in other ways. Keep in mind, the yama and niyama are the foundation of B.K.S. Iyengar's method of yoga. They are the first 2 limbs
of the 8 limbs of yoga: yama, niyama, asana, the yoga postures, pranayama, yoga of breath, pratyahara, withdrawing the senses as we do in Shavasana, of dharan, the capacity to concentrate, and then of dhyan, of meditation, and ultimately of samadhi, of that beautiful sense that we have, that we are all connected. In First Nations cosmology, you'll hear the phrase, all my relations. The yama and niyama refer to all our interconnected ways, that we are all connected to each other, never more so than now during this pandemic, where every move we make has to be done mindfully in the service of others. Yogis, I bow to you. I bow to my friend Dory Miller, and I bow to the teachings that have been brought to us by B.K.S. Iyengar, by Patanjali. Namaste. Stay well.
Thank you, Kelly. I'm just going to take yogis on a little walk over here, where Kelly has provided 3 little worksheets that are very fun, using Sanskrit. And you can probably take a closer look when you're at home and maybe print them off and have some fun with a cup of tea in the shade of a tree. There. And I'm just going to take you farther back to the entrance, and I'm going to show you, on the way, I'm just going to stop and show you here. This is familiar to many, but I thought it was perfect to bring it up, is the bookmark. And I'm going to print some more and make those available. And also, at home, I've been busy. My kitchen door wide open and my ironing board out on the deck and my machine close by, and I've been making masks. So I have lots of masks available, and they come and go every day. So if you're interested, you can be in contact with me. So it's been a pleasure. See you all soon. Namaste.